Hello on this warm Wednesday and welcome to this week's edition of Sports Talk in the Burgh. I am your host, Sam Dutch, and tonight's sport experts feature Nate Breisinger, Tyler Gallo, and John Hanna. Kicking it off tonight in football, Ben Roethlisberger's agent says that the Steelers want him back next season. Is this the right move for the Steelers, or should they officially move on from Ben and his tough cap hit? I'm throwing it over to you, John.
Well, if I'm the Steelers, I think it's time to say, au revoir to Big Ben.
Sayonara.
Yeah, he's had
adios.
He's had his time in Pittsburgh. $41 million cap hit next year, which, for a team that's, I don't know if they're getting older, is that really what you want to pay your quarterback?
And also, it's not. I don't think it's about the cap hit either. His play on the field just wasn't there anymore. Throwing 4 picks against Cleveland in the playoff game, 6 games during the course of the season where he threw at least 3 interceptions. You just can't have that anymore. And there's guys waiting in the flanks like Mason Rudolph, Dwayne Haskins now coming in.
Also, you look at his playoff success, it hasn't been there recently. He's only won 3 playoff games the past decade.
And just think about his performance on the field this season. He didn't surpass 350 yards at all in a single game this season, except for that one playoff game, but he was playing from behind, so he kind of had to throw for the whole game. But, you could tell, just down the stretch, he was running out of gas. He did not look like the Ben of old, and he just looked like he wasn't even just doing what he was supposed to out there, just sort of just trudging through the field.
And also he's having a potentially worse team. Juju might be gone. James Conner might be gone. Pouncey retired in the offseason. New offensive coordinator in Matt Canada. So who knows if these players are going to, be replaced, or if, because his run game was one of the main weaknesses last year,
that's what they need to do to build this team back up. They need to give him a running back for him to be better, and also they need to fix their offensive line with a couple guys departing. Ben. He can't move. He has no mobility, and that's the biggest thing that hurts him. And also, his arm is not there anymore, just throwing it down the field. He was throwing too many short balls.
Yeah, and they did speak to Art Rooney, saying he was coming back, and both Ben and Pittsburgh reportedly willing to restructure that deal, but who knows if it'll even be worth it.
Though he is coming back, it might indeed be time for Big Ben to end up on the market, where J.J. Watt currently is. Where will he go? Who is the best landing spot for the former Texan? Nate, what do you think?
Well, a lot of people here in Pittsburgh want him to be a Steeler coming up in the upcoming season with brother T.J. Watt, but I have him going to Green Bay, back to his hometown. He played for the Wisconsin Badgers. I just think it's a sentimental appeal going back home and playing. Yes, there's some cap issues with Green Bay. That's one thing you got to notice.
They have negative $4.5 million. My money, I know you're going to call me homer, yada, yada. It's Buffalo. Buffalo, he wants to go to a contender. Buffalo, in my opinion, best out of those 3 teams. Dallas, out of the question. Who knows if Dak is coming back?
Well, look, here's what I'm saying with Dallas. If one Texas team isn't going to give you the money, why not stay with another one and stay where you were located for several years? It all rides on if they do re-sign Dak, and if Zeke can rebound from having just a sort of.
I hate to break it to you, Tyler.
He wants to win. He
wants
to win.
Dallas and I hate to break it to you. John Clayton reported earlier today at 3:18, Tennessee, Green Bay, and Buffalo are the top 3. Oakland's a dark horse. Dallas, not even there.
Well, look, I can see him ending up in Green Bay as well, like Nate said. It's home, it's close to home, and why wouldn't you want to stay?
13-3 in the past 2 seasons, NFC championships consecutive years. Rodgers needs that extra boost on defense to help him get to the Super Bowl.
Absolutely. I think that's the most likely landing spot as of now. While the Bills are a good space for him, I just don't see the fit there. I really don't see it.
I see the fit because the Bills' defensive end right now, Jerry Hughes, A.J. Epineza, and Trent Murphy are the main 3. J.J. Watt can easily slot in right there.
It'll be interesting to see where he ends up. And with the trade market for quarterbacks heating up, top quarterbacks are getting moved like Goff, Stafford, and Wentz, and more in the future. Tyler, who do you think has the best chance of success, and who's most likely to fail?
Well, I think one guy has both sides of the argument here. He has the most likely chance to have success and to fail, and that is Matt Stafford. I've been a huge fan of his ever since he got into the league, and I'm so happy he's finally on a team that actually cares about about winning and has a good coach in Sean McVay. I think that this has a great chance to be an amazing pick for him as well, and it is an amazing location, but he could also falter.
See, you mentioned coaches. I'm going with someone reunited with his former OC, Carson Wentz, being traded to Indianapolis, and this is a Indianapolis team. They almost beat Buffalo in the wild card with, the corpse pretty much of Phillip Rivers at the helm. And, T.Y. Hilton, maybe coming back. Zach Pascal, Michael Pittman Jr. not giving up his 11, and Jack Doyle, as well as a solid offensive line with guys like Quentin Nelson. I think this Indy team with Carson Wentz at the helm will be a real threat.
And you can't forget Jonathan Taylor on the back end, too. He's just a nightmare.
Well, I agree with Gallo, and I know Wentz is could be a good fit in Indianapolis, but Stafford going to the Rams.
Yeah,
eight seasons of over 4,000 yards passing. He's been capable of leading a team.
Might I remind you.
And also, he's going to a team. We're talking about best chance of success. We're talking the Rams. Rams, first overall in defensive with yards allowed and points allowed. Number one in that category with the least amount of those. He's going to a team that can play in their Super Bowl contenders potentially with Stafford there.
I mean, if they could somewhat make Jared Goff look good, they can make anyone look good, and I think Stafford is a perfect fit for the Rams.
Skating over to the ice, Pittsburgh hockey icon Sidney Crosby records his 1,000th game as a Penguin. Where do you think he fits on the top hockey players ever? John, what do you think?
I mean, I think he's top 10. I think top 3, Gretzky, Lemieux, Orr. And then after that, it's cloudy. There, you have guys like
agree with that,
Maurice
definitely.
Richard, Crosby. I'd even put Dominic Hasek up there as the best goalie of all time. Gordie Howe, Jaromir Jagr, Ovi, Messier. So it's really cloudy in that 4 to 10 range. But I think that he definitely slots in there somewhere.
I don't even have a goalie in my top 10 because they are good, but I also take a look at just the way that some of these guys play. I mean, think of Mike Bossy. Had his career not been cut short, we could have been talking him in the top 3 of all time, but I can't see.
You can sort of say the same about Crosby with his concussion issues, but still, 3-time Cup winner, 8-time All-Star, 2 Conn Smythes, 2 Harts, 3 Ted Lindsays, 2 Maurice Richards, 2 Art Rosses. These are numbers of the top echelon of players, but I just think the injuries sort of cut his potential for the top 3 short.
Now, by the end of his career, he's definitely going to be in that range, and we can just solidify that. But right now, I'm saying he's 8th because you look at the time in the day and age.
Who's ahead of him?
You look at the day. You said Gretzky or Lemieux. I have Patrick Waugh up there. Not in particular order. Gordie Howe, Bobby Hall, Maurice Richard. Anyways, but that's not the subject at hand. We're talking about Crosby. We're talking about Crosby, and in the day and age he's playing in a much harder game.
Okay,
the goal scoring is way down from when Lemieux and Gretzky were in there.
Putting up points like Gretzky in that day and age, and he was playing. You can make that argument for Gretzky.
Did you say why Gretzky wasn't putting up points like Gretzky?
No, why?
That is what you just said.
Well, look, listen. People always make the argument that Gretzky was playing against no competition. Why weren't other players doing stats like that? Look, I have Crosby around the 6-7 range. I think and he has a chance to move up a little bit. He's very interchangeable in the top or bottom 5. Excuse me.
Now, we Yinzers have our Mount Washington, but it's time to take a trip to South Dakota to create a new site. Who would be your Pittsburgh sports Mount Rushmore? Nate, who are your 4 stars?
So I'm going Mario Lemieux, Roberto Clemente, Mean Joe Green, and Sid the Kid that we just talked about. Those are my 4. I think with what each of them did for their teams solidifies them in this spot. I know you guys have some coaches and some owners, but look, you got to talk about the players on the field that made it happen. But I know they brought in players, but these teams would never be like that without them winning.
Art Rooney, founder of the Steelers, and also he helped bring the Penguins to Pittsburgh. He was also a financial supporter of the Homestead Grays in the Negro League.
Well, he's not a player. You look at some of the
success.
It
doesn't say players. It says Pittsburgh sports. Sports is more than.
There wouldn't even be a team in town if there wasn't for Art Rooney. So listen, and also for Mario and Sid, they're the only reason they're still in Pittsburgh right now. If you think about it, they were going to move to Kansas City with Mario Lemieux, and who knows where they would have moved if they didn't get Sidney Crosby with how bad they were in the mid-2000s. But I have Chuck Nolan here. He's one of the most underappreciated coaches of all time and one of the best coaches of all time, in my opinion. And you can't run the offense and defense well without a good coach.
Look, you talk about the play on the ice or on the field. Lemieux 2 cups, Crosby 3 cups, Mean Joe Green 4 championships, Clemente 2 championships, and you also talk about their impact off the ice and off the field. Crosby helping the youth, bring the youth into the youth hockey community, growing that. Lemieux keeping hockey,
his whole cancer thing. You see him up in Cranberry with the Lemieux Sports Complex.
Clemente was helping outside of baseball. That's why he sadly passed away. But all these guys have a reason to be on that Mount Rushmore, and that's why I think those are your top 4.
I think you need 2 Mount Rushmores for Pittsburgh, if I'm completely honest.
Now, all of those were some pretty rock-solid answers, but batting it over to the MLB, spring training has just begun, and the Pirates are projected for one of their worst seasons in franchise history. Tyler, who are you most excited to see come up in the system?
Well, look, I know you guys are going to talk about position players, and that's all right and good, but I think Quinn Priester is one that I'm most excited for. And if you don't have, I mean, you can't win a game if you don't string together a good pitching performance. If they're getting out there and getting shelled all the time, like Pittsburgh pitching staffs have been in the past, although they have been good in the recent years, like low-key good, I think that he's just oozing with potential to slot in at that number 1 or number 2 spot, and I think you have to have good pitching if you want to have success.
I mean, for my pick, I'm going O'Neal Cruz. Yes, he had his incidents, a few months ago with his accidents, but he's 6'7". He's a rangy guy. He's a shortstop. 64th on the MLB top 100. He's a guy that can come in when he starts playing. He could be, all eyes on him, that type of player. Cole Tucker was supposed to be potentially that guy. He moved to the outfield. They haven't had a solid shortstop in years.
Well, I'm going right next to you with Nick Gonzalez, second base. Honestly, Kevin Newman, Adam Frazier, Cole Tucker, they're not going to be long-term options. I know you said Cole Tucker moved to the outfield, but they're not going to be long-term options. 7th overall pick in the 2020 draft, MVP of the Cape Cod League in 2019. In last year, in only 16 games with New Mexico State, 448 batting average, 12 home runs. That's almost 1 home run a game for Nick Gonzalez at second base. So I think, give him a few years coming up through the pipeline. He's going to be an instant impact for this Pirates team.
It's almost time for some baseball, but as of right now, hockey and basketball are the only sports in action. So which player do you think deserves the spotlight and being Pro Athlete of the Week? John, who's your pick?
Well, we're all going hockey. I'm going with Morgan Geekie out of the AHL Chicago Wolves. Played his first 2 games of the season on Saturday and Sunday, scoring 5 points. 2-goal assist on Saturday, 2 goals on Sunday.
John, AHL is, yes, professional hockey,
It is
but we're not.
yes.
Come on, we're talking about the top 4 pro sports in North America right now. We're going to the NHL. Connor McDavid is my pick. 8 points in the past 4 games over the past week. He had 5 points against Calgary in one of their matchups. Edmonton 4-0 in those games. And,
Well,
and
player
also
that's the
you talk
of their
about
offense. I mean, take a look at David Pastrnak on the Bruins. I mean, with him, they're just incredible. He has 6 points in the last 3 games. That's good as well. But he has 59 goals and 113 points in his last 82 games.
Well, we're talking
That's
about
not the week. That's
pro
not the
athlete.
week, Tyler.
Exactly.
Yeah, but 6 points in 3 games is not bad as well. I mean,
And
I don't
also-
see you putting up 6
also,
points in 3
you
games.
have
in a week.
You have McDavid. McDavid's playing in the North Division, which might be the worst division in sports.
All right, but you got to think about it. Edmonton's team has no defense, no goaltending. He has to carry them. He's going to be the MVP at the end.
Oh
of the
yeah,
day.
Leon Draisaitl doesn't exist or anything.
Nope.
Coming up after the break will be all things college sports from RMU through NCAA. Stay with us here on the best way to spend a Wednesday evening here at Sports Talk in the Burgh. Can't high five. All right.
When you adopt a shelter pet, you discover all the things that make them unique. And your mother and...
I am totally a hot person. Right, guys? Thanks for being honest.
They're a little bit of a lot of things, but they're all pure love. Adopt pure love at theshelterpetproject.org.
Multiple studies have shown that marijuana can slow both driver reaction and response time, which can be really dangerous. He's here. He's here. Wait. What? I can't drive. Why? My. Oh.
Stem is precise, no margin for error.
Dare to forget that. Dare to have fun with it. Get weird with it. Dare to send those old STEM theories flying past the neighbor's house into outer space. Dare to program something internet-breaking, record-breaking. Dare to blow their minds. Dare to learn the difference between sedimentary and metamorphic rock. Go find those rocks. Dare to keep daring. Dare to STEM. Check out She Can STEM.
Welcome back to Sports Talk in the Burgh. The diamond sure has been shining. Kumar Rocker and Jack Leiter lit it up on the radar gun for the Vanderbilt Comrades in Monday's doubleheader with Wright State. As college baseball returns, who looked more impressive and deserving at this moment to go 1-2 in the draft? Tyler?
Well, I think you got to go with the guy who's been the consensus #1 for a while now, and that's Kumar Rocker. I mean, if you take a look at how he pitched in that game, he struck out 8 in 4 innings, which he's out. I mean, that's out of this world.
He made it look easy, basically.
Yeah, he
really
made it
did.
look way easy.
He has the way of just sort of commanding the zone and knowing where he wants to pitch, and he made the Wright State team, the Raiders, look silly. I mean, 14-1 in final score. Granted, he only pitched for 4 innings, but still, 8 strikeouts in 4 innings. That's 2 strikeouts per inning if you're good at math. I mean, take a look at his performance.
He has a nasty fastball slider combination, and I've heard he's actually also adding a cutter into the mix, which make his repertoire even more lethal. As he develops at Vanderbilt and then eventually makes it into the MLB.
Also, you talk about dominance as a #1 pick. Him starting off that game, striking out the side in the first inning, I think that's so important for a pitcher to be able to go out there from the jump and be so good. And that's exactly what Kumar Rocker did, and that's what people are looking.
Being shortened from COVID.
Exactly, and that's what people are looking
And I will say this, Leiter had a great performance as well. You don't want to discount that at all, but still, I think there's just too much stuff behind Rocker to not go put him.
I think he's been the consensus for so long. It's really hard for a good performance by Leiter to push him above Rocker.
Now over to the Colonial Hoops. RMU men's and women's basketball begin the Horizon League Conference Tournament on Tuesday after being in the basement of the standings for all or most of the season. Which program has a better long-term outlook? And will either team win a tournament game? Nate?
Well, the men's basketball team, I think, has the better long-term outlook. But I'm going to start with what's most recent. Women's basketball going into the Horizon League tournament, I think they have the best chance to win a game. They're playing Northern Kentucky, a 7-5 team.
I don't think either team has a good chance. Men's basketball playing Detroit Mercy, who they just played last weekend, losing both games.
Yeah, men's basketball doesn't win at all.
No, women's basketball, you said playing Northern Kentucky. They lost both games early in the season, 60-33.
John, that was early in the season. That was their first 4 games of the season, and granted, they were supposed to play them for 6 straight games. But if there's any team that has a sore taste in their mouth from those games, it's women's basketball. And if they win, they're going to play against Wright State or Milwaukee. Granted, Milwaukee crushed them at the beginning of the season, but Wright State is the only team they swept, and they swept them in a series at home.
Which is still completely mind-boggling.
Yeah, it's crazy to see that they went from losing 2 to them to winning 2, so I think they have the better, but for men's, they have the better long-term outlook, especially with Brandon Stone and Justin Winston coming in as transfer, and, of course, Tristan Jeffries, who's a big small forward that's coming in next year.
I think it's women's basketball, mostly because who knows how long these guys on men's basketball are going to stay. We've seen it, A.J. Brahma transferred out, and also John Williams and Charles Bain are graduating at the end of the year. Who knows if they'll come back for their 5th season if, COVID even allows them to. But I think, Sol Castro named the all-rookie team for the Horizon League, 9.9 points a game, almost averaging 10. And Mackenzie Amelia also showing signs of greatness, 22 points against Purdue Fort Wayne a couple weeks ago. So I think this women's basketball team, because they don't have players transferring out, except for Isabella Posset last year, but that was, a fluke incident as opposed to the constant stream for men's basketball.
Look, with the long-term outlook, you got to look at Andy Toole. He knows how to build a program and bring it back to a top team. It was 1 year in the Horizon League, and I think they just had some mishaps. And moving forward, they'll be better.
Introducing our next topic will be Colby Sherwin, who skated over to the island to bring you this cold topic. Colby?
Thanks, Sam. I'm in Clearview Arena, home of the men's and women's hockey team. And my question for you guys is, out of their 2 conferences, who is their biggest competition to win the tournament? John, lace them up and give me your answers.
Well, I think the answer for both is Mercyhurst. Game is being played up in Erie. Both teams have had very big troubles up in Erie. Men's hockey struggle against Mercyhurst. We're supposed to play them tomorrow. That game has been postponed, as we learned right before the show. And they've been outscored 12-13, lost both games in Erie, and they've allowed the most goals all season, 7 on January 23rd against those Lakers.
Look, biggest threat to the men's hockey team has to be RIT. Just dropped 2 games against them this past weekend. 6-1 they lost in the game 1. Now, over the year, they're 2-2 splitting with, but historically, you know this from being from Rochester, RIT is a good program.
They are a very good program.
Well, there's one team that stands out among all the rest of them, and this is a team that they would only face in the championship if they got there.
That's why I think this is not a big threat.
AIC is got to be the one that they're circling on the calendar if they do end up with a date with them.
If they circle AIC, then they're going to lose to Mercyhurst or RIT. They're overlooking their competition. So if they look forward to AIC, then they might lose to, Niagara Canisius if they circle AIC on their calendars.
Well, that's a team, but I will say that's a team they also have to remember to prepare for if they do get that far. So I think that AIC, these are all three teams that are going to be important for them to face, especially Mercyhurst, because that's a team that they've had trouble with, especially on their rink.
Yeah, and you mentioned, Mercyhurst. That's also my pick for women's hockey. 2-1-1 against Mercyhurst this season. However, Erie is women's hockey's kryptonite. They are 6-24-4 all time in Northwestern PA. That is not a winning success, especially when the tournament is scheduled to be up in Mercyhurst. I think that this Mercyhurst team, I see you both picked Penn State, who won the CHA for the first time, I believe, ever this season, swept RMU for the first time ever as well. But I think history against Mercyhurst is not on the Colonial side.
Well, you're talking historically. We're looking at the team this year. Penn State, 15-1-2. 15-1-2. They have 9 freshmen. They have 2 seniors.
Also, they handled women's hockey really, really well.
They were 4-0 against RMU this 4-0 against RMU this year. They're a scary team, and I think that comes in with that freshman. No one really knows. They haven't been able to scout them over the years. You look historically, it's Mercyhurst. This year, it's Penn State.
From the rink to the field, Mackenzie Gandy breaks women's lacrosse all-time points record with the help of an additional year of eligibility. Do you think the record books could be invalidated with athletes playing 4 full seasons, then returning for an additional 5th due to the NCAA's ruling? John, what do you think?
I'm going no. Every single week on this show, it seems we have a question if, the records will be invalid due to COVID. And I just don't see it happening because, every single team has dealt with these sort of things.
Well, John, athletes don't have control over the virus. They couldn't have foreseen this coming, especially in March when things were all well and good.
Yeah, it's not like Mackenzie Gandy saying, you know what? Let's cause a global pandemic so I can play for an additional year.
Yeah, that's definitely
not what's happening.
But look, I think even with Mackenzie Gandy, she was on pace to break it last season, even without the virus. She was cruising through her first couple of games on the season, and this year she proved exactly why she was going to do that, and she took no time to tie the record and then broke it almost immediately against Fresno State.
Yeah, and she had 176 points coming into the season, and she said to herself it was heartbreaking that she had the potential of not coming back. But you also look at other sports in the NCAA. Football. You get 4 years as a freshman. If you only play in 4 games, you can be redshirt again. Those games that you played in can mount up to those historically stat-breaking games and stats that they have. And I think being allowed an extra year of eligibility for COVID, I don't think really matters. And I think they should be allowed. And I think that's just how
even
it's
if it
happen.
has the asterisk, it's still going to count. Everything's going to count from this season. Who cares if every single team has dealt with this? So it really doesn't matter, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it's remarkable that they've been able to have these seasons, and it was really nice to see fans in the stands at the lacrosse game. But I think, the records, they should not be invalidated at all. I think you're playing 4 years, and, the last year, they should just put it out the window unless they completed the full season. It can go sort of either way with, basketball playing a full season and lacrosse not really getting it into softball and stuff like that, but I think it's sort of, there's 2 sides to the argument here.
Women's hockey did not allow a goal in their 2 games against Sacred Heart, and 1 lacrosse player set the all-time points record. So, Nate, who is your top athlete of the week for RMU Sports?
You have to go with the record-breaking performance of Mackenzie Gandy. The people you two that didn't pick Mackenzie Gandy, you guys are just flat out wrong.
Well, look,
you talked about you talked about 6
goals
goals.
in her first 2 games of her career, first 2 starts, starting them and getting shutouts. Granted, it was against not a great Sacred Heart team, but the defense played really well in front of her. She stopped all 36 shots she faced, and by the way,
36 shots.
Only goalie in RMU history to start her career with 2 consecutive shutouts, and the only one to do it with a shutout in her first start. So, and especially on her senior day, it's just it's sort of a perfect storm.
You're talking about, Molly Singleton and Michaela Boyle. They played Sacred Heart. Sacred Heart? Yeah. They're not a women's hockey team. Come on now. Women's hockey playing Liberty and Fresno State.
One honorable mention I'd like to point out, Frankie Sanchez in that Saturday game making 71 saves, which is just unbelievable.
Yeah, that's Sacred Heart. We're talking about RMU. The second game as an 8-0 loss, but that performance was unbelievable. But I think, Molly Singleton, she did have a bunch of tough shots to face too, especially as they were taking penalties and they were hemmed in their zone for a while. You can make the Sacred Heart argument that they're not that great, but I think that it's still, this performance can't go overlooked.
We've seen a lot of impressive athletes on this show tonight, and finishing up the show after the break are final takes from Nate, Tyler, and John. We'll be back shortly, so don't go anywhere.
If you need to do something to feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive. Don't drive buzzed.
Maybe you can make retirement happen. After all, you made her college years happen. Opening that education savings account when she was little. Spearheading a campus tour. And another, and another, and another, and another. Bam! Deciphering financial aid. She was like, what? And now she's like, you aced planning for college. Now get the tips you need to get on track at aceyourretirement.org.
Jason, let's go see your room.
That's not right. How was it? Is it good?
Things could be stranger, but I don't know how. I'm going through changes now. Could spend a lifetime trying to figure it out. I'm going through changes, through all of the strangeness. I'm going through changes now.
Welcome back to Sports Talk in the Burgh. It's now time for your final takes. Nate, you're up first.
Thanks, Sam. Well, over the weekend, the National Hockey League attempted to take center stage in the sports world with the first of its kind NHL Outdoor Showcase Series. While there were some hiccups with ice melt at Lake Tahoe that postponed Game 1 until midnight on Saturday, the games received positive feedback as it was the highest viewed regular season game on NBCSN. The players had the opportunity to truly channel their inner childhood, especially playing in a remote location with no fans in attendance. Now, this is where the subject at hand comes into play. The NHL needs to do a much better job at marketing its brand, and it starts here. With a new tradition of outdoor games, the league has overcompensated fans with the same blandish Stadium Series games, which in turn have negatively affected Winter Classic viewership. The league has the opportunity to capitalize on a unique experience for both players and fans to find a remote outdoor location with a stunning backdrop like Lake Tahoe. Combine that with the Winter Classic, and there you have your new lineup for outdoor games. It has been no secret that the NHL has struggled to market its games, especially internationally. So this would be a huge mistake not to jump on an opportunity that would take the game back to its roots, allowing fans and players to enjoy outdoor games once again.
With spring training rolling around, there's one thing missing among the multitude of changes the MLB has made in the offseason, and that is bringing the designated hitter to the National League. Don't get me wrong, moments like Bartolo Colon's only career home run will live on forever, but I think it's definitely time to bring the DH to the National League. Not only does it open up its spot in the lineups for players who don't field well but hit well, but I can't bear another season of pitchers looking silly at the plate. Take former Braves pitcher Mike Foltynewicz, for example. In 58 at-bats during the 2018 season, he struck out 41 times and looked overmatched on every pitch. And even though Mets pitchers are talented at the plate like Jacob deGrom, Noah Syndergaard struck out in 47 of the 65 plate appearances in 2019. This can't continue to happen. The American League has always had some of the best offense because all 9 hitters are real hitters. Why not bring that to the NL too?
Knee surgery at 18 years old, a torn ACL in 2007, surgery to replace that torn ACL, and 2 stress fractures in his left tibia in 2008, as well as a torn right Achilles, 5 back surgeries, and numerous battles with his own personal demons. Any normal man would have retired. However, Tiger Woods is not normal. After some thought he would never win again, Woods shocked the golf world and won the 2019 Masters tournament, his 5th green jacket and first major since 2011. Woods is now 3 majors back of Jack Nicklaus's record 18 and tied with Sam Snead with 82 total wins on the PGA Tour. And, to throw another wrench into the works, Woods sustained multiple leg injuries following a car accident yesterday. Tiger Woods is not a quitter, however, and I believe that he will overcome yet another hurdle that has been placed in his way over his career, whether by himself or by nature. And Tiger Woods will win at least one more tournament in the PGA before he retires and will pass Sam Snead for the most wins all-time in professional golf history. Well, I do agree with you that the NHL does need to do a much better job marketing its games. I mean, the Heritage Classic, sort of the Canada's Winter Classic, you don't see anywhere in the U.S. And superstars like Crosby, McDavid, McKinnon, Matthews, Eichel, these guys are getting no commercial time whatsoever.
Also, there was very little marketing about the Lake Tahoe games in
I
general.
barely, I'm a huge hockey fan. I forgot they went on.
There was nothing better than the Winter Classic when it first came out, by the way. That's all I'm going to leave it at.
Yeah, that first Winter Classic was amazing. All right, but for Sam Dutch, Nate Breisinger, and Tyler Gallo, I'm John Hanna, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.